Hello everybody, this is Waldorf.
And Statler.
And today we're looking at the 9th Age Fantasy Battles Deployment and Secondary Objectives.
From the sneak peek for the second edition, which was recently posted on the 9th Age site.
Correct. Blonde Beer released this recently. I think it was Blonde Beer.
I believe so, yeah, the PR team.
Basically the new deployment and secondary objectives.
Yeah, now these are available. People are free to, they want people to play test them and I guess get
Correct.
back to them with comments. I actually didn't read how they wanted people to comment back.
They actually put a link to
Is there a form?
a forum section for a forum post to reply.
So there's a form to fill out?
No, a forum post.
A forum. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just wanted you to go on, post what you thought, whatever.
Well, hopefully they do a form because that way they'll get structured responses.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be like a 3-part question with 7 multiple choices for each.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
So that way it comes out and means absolutely nothing.
There you go.
It can be interpreted that way. It can be interpreted any way you like.
Yes,
by each individual player.
Yeah. Well, they need to do some way. If they really want feedback, it has to be structured in some way, or it'll just be too hard.
Correct.
To read and understand and comprehend and move and balance things. So.
Understood, but I don't know. Anyway, the deployment type. Basically, they're just telling you if you're not told what to do by a tournament organizer or a campaign, and you can't agree with your opponent, just roll a die and pick one. Okay, fine.
So you're not required to play any of these particular scenarios.
Correct.
Unless you're in a tournament. Your tournament organizer tells you are.
Right. All right. But the deployment types, basically they've added 2. So now there's 6 different types.
Correct. So
the frontline clash has not changed as far as the
exactly the same
map type. We come to the Dawn Assault.
Yes.
This table is divided into half, straight line through the center of the board. This time you have to deploy 10 inches off the center line instead of the 12. You can see it's just a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And only cav light troops and scouts may be placed in these
in the little blocks.
These little 12 by 10 inch blocks in the corners. I don't see this as a big change. It'll push gun lines out of the corner a little bit. Not by a whole lot, but a little bit.
I'm curious why the 10 inches. I'm sure there was a reason for it. It'd be interesting. This is something I'd actually like them to do, is talk a little bit, like have a posting as far as what their thought process.
What their thoughts, the designer notes.
You know what they're trying to achieve with these different scenarios. Because we have our thoughts just from reading it, which we'll go over. But yeah, that I'm curious about. I think that would also help other people, even for them to get feedback that are they on the right track or not.
Right.
But yeah, so the 10, I'm curious why
why 10?
Is it 10 just to be different than 12 or whatever? I do like the you can't deploy on the. It kind of reminds me of that old Warhammer scenario where you couldn't deploy. Was it within 8 inches of the flank or whatever the heck it was?
Yeah, and you deployed up to 15 inches in or something.
Yeah,
it was the pitched. I don't know, something where you fought closer. Anyway.
So I kind of like it. I think they could even make it even farther if they really want to make it interesting.
It also allows you, when declaring special deployment, players may choose to keep up to 2 of their units as reinforcements. They follow the rules for ambushers, except they automatically arrive in game turn 1 and must be placed touching the long table edge in their own deployment zone. So basically you can hold 2 units up to 2 units off the board.
Yeah, I think that's, since they're coming on, if you've got something you're afraid of getting plinked.
Correct. Yeah. You can hold it off for a turn.
You can hold it off for a turn, until you've neutralized what was going to plink it, or you've see where that thing is going to be. If you're outnumbered a lot, you're not going to be able to set up last. So yeah, I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's a good ad
setup, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't mind this one at all.
I'm just curious about the 10 inches.
I am too.
Yeah.
Moving on to the counter thrust. This is close to the same, except now instead of being 6 inches away off the center line, you have to be 8 off. And instead of being 18 inches away from the enemy, after you place the first unit, they have to stay 20 away from you.
Yeah.
And then this is interesting. It used to be that you had to keep placing.
Kept alternating till you're done.
Yeah. This one's until a total of 5 units, both sides combined, have been deployed. Players must deploy a single unit at a time and cannot deploy any characters.
Yeah, I misread this when I first thought it was 5 units per side, which made sense to me because by then you should have the
Feel
front
for where
line,
everything's going.
sorted out. But total of 5.
Well, I think this has a possibility of speeding up the deployment a little bit, rather than forcing you to do 1, 1, 1, 1.
Well, that's the reason to do it. But yeah.
But anyway, right?
So if you go first, you're going to put out 3 units, and if you go
Yes. If you go first, the person going second has the opportunity to finish before you.
no, the person going first finishes first.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Because 5 units.
Until 5 have been deployed, players must deploy only because there's only been
until
4.
okay. So yes, it's the second player. You're right.
The second player.
You can't put the 5th unit down and deploy
Correct.
everything else. Yeah. So the guy who gets deployed second basically can do the big drop if they want to.
Correct. He's the first one with the opportunity.
Yeah, not that matters anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious once again what the thought process of changing the distance from 6 to 8 and from 18 to 20.
Yeah, the 20 I think is fine.
Yeah,
It makes for a different board.
Makes for a different.
I would rather see this stay at 6.
If it was stayed at 6, it would have definitely made for a different board. But the 8 kind of doesn't matter that much.
You're already 16 apart.
Yeah,
This is forcing you with another
it's 4 inches.
4 inches.
So before it was 18 with 12,
18 and 12 is what?
6 inches.
Yeah.
So there's less movement on the tape, which is what I always thought was kind of neat about this deployment, is it would give you some irregular.
Right.
So this seems, at least we're missing some. At least I'm missing something that it's going to make the table a little more.
Still almost a battle line.
Yeah, almost a battle line. So, is that really worth the
The extra deployment.
the extra
5.
deployment compared to the scenario
Well,
above?
I think this changes things a little bit. With you have to place 1 by 1 till you get 5 down. Is just a little bit different.
It's a little bit different as far as setting up your initial units, but the outcome isn't that different than the scenario above. You get the sides. Yeah.
All right. Moving on, we have Encircle, which is exactly what it used to be.
Right.
Has not changed a bit. I kind of like this scenario. The deployment. I just
It confuses people.
It confuses people until they're used to playing.
Yeah.
It confuses newer players. But I've always kind of liked playing this one. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think it does some interesting things. It's maybe instead of doing the quarter half, if they would fix one of those distances, like they did in the scenario above.
What do you mean?
So instead of being, basically, they're doing the quarter, and the difference is half in the
Right.
middle in the attacker. So because they're allowing for variable size tables, which.
So you're saying if they set this one's hard?
Yeah,
at
if they set it
12
hard,
inches,
I think it would be easier for people.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
If you just said that 12 inches or whatever it was, or
Yeah.
the middle is always 24, that would make it, I think, easier. I think that's what confuses people is
Conceptually
it's
understand
it's locked in the middle, but on the sides it's variable
Yes.
on both
Correct.
deployment areas.
Yeah, understood.
I think that might make it easier for people to comprehend, at least newer people, etc.
Right. Moving on, we have the refuse flank, which exactly the same as it used to be.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of this particular one.
This opens up interesting games, so I kind of like this.
It can.
You don't want to run into a gun line in this deployment.
The problem is, gun lines are can be really rough, and you don't have any depth on the flanks,
right.
which can cause you all other kinds of challenges.
Again, that's why I'd say that's kind of what I like. Again, it's caused a.
Yeah,
It's one that requires more thought than you initially just think.
it does.
You also have a chance to really screw a gun line if you're the one picking the terrain.
Yes,
Because if there's
depending on where the train
if
is.
there's a hill right here
Right.
or something that's going to break this up and give him a problem, you can force him into that.
Yeah, and that's the counter to it is controlling as a TO to control the terrain so people don't set up in the back corner.
Right.
I kind of actually wouldn't mind, instead of this setup or additional, is a sort of a combination of this and the scenario above. So like it was like a staggered scenario, but just one stagger. So like the first half you only deploy a foot in,
Right.
and then the second half you deploy maybe 18 or 24. So then you still have that.
The still have the kind of not diagonal, but at least
Right, and you still have some
weighted
depth to your
side.
position, because if you get guys like on the long
yeah,
corner
that
piece
means-
there.
I mean, there's nobody in this 12-inch section here in the corner.
Yes. Well, I mean, like when you're there, where the board is close to the end, when your deployment, you've got no place to fall back.
Right.
You get tear it off,
Correct.
boom.
Yeah, like if you're deploying out.
Yeah, you can just
Correct.
one bad die roll from a tear causing it, you're off the table.
Right.
Because you're already in charge range of a lot of things potentially
Yes,
if you set up
18 inches,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just me though.
One thing they did do, they clarified, is the more than 9 away
Yes.
from the center line. They just so you're not within 9.
Right.
You're more than 9.
Yes.
So there's just that debate whether when you did this, whether you were within 18 or not. You're
Yes.
not allowed to deploy within 18 because they both have to be off by
Right.
9.
Actually,
so you have to be 19.
that's a good question. On the first one, is it more than 12 or
I
is
think
it?
they all are more than.
I don't remember. Yeah,
Yes,
more than. Yeah.
12. Yeah, they did more than 12 they did more than all the way down through.
Yeah, you remember with 8th edition, it would matter for your war machines of the game people would play. Is you'd have a deep place with your war machines, you'd turn it sideways and you'd pivot it so
right.
you're in firing range without moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've solved that by going to the round bases. Yeah.
And then this one is probably the biggest change of one in it all, I think. I mean, because this one was, this one's not that big of a deal.
Right, it's just a variation of number one.
This one, you divide the table in half, you have to deploy 12 inches off the center line, and then you start deploying from one side to the other.
Right.
And each unit you deploy after the first one has to be further to the other side. If you choose the right, you have to, like you said, you have to deploy them in this order. 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
You have to keep
basically,
going
your army is
to the right.
kind of in a column, but facing the enemy.
Correct. I don't mind this one. I think it's interesting. And the other thing it says is, War Machine chariots and scoring. You ignore these rules. Wait a minute. Wow, I didn't even see that.
What's that?
Sword edge in the center of the player that deployed. Each player must choose a sword edge further away. You have to keep deploying further away than the
Right.
last one. But War Machine's characters and scouting units ignore these rules.
I'd forgotten.
I missed that.
I read it and I forgot it. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, characters I can understand because you place a unit here, you end up placing the characters on step 7.
Right.
That would mean you couldn't place the character in here.
Yes.
I saw this as a potential deterrent to gun lines until I just saw this, that you can still put your war machine wherever you want.
Yeah.
Because if you save your cannon for last,
right.
I thought you were going to get squeezed here into the corner, but that's not the case because they ignore that.
Oh, that's one thing we didn't talk about from the very top. Is war machines no longer?
They didn't.
Or that's at the beginning.
Maybe it is. Maybe
I think we missed that. We read it and we missed it.
Capitalize. No.
Top of the.
I don't think it's come up yet.
Oh, it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
it hasn't
sorry.
come up yet, but
All
I
right,
mean,
we'll get to that
It's
then.
important, but
Yeah.
basically later on we'll come to it. It's important for this topic is that war machines
Absolutely.
are separate now, not as all deployed as one.
Right. So yeah.
Anyway, I didn't know that. Without this, it makes it a completely different scenario for me. With this in there, that they ignore that rule, it's not.
Just seems to be a slower way to deploy.
Yeah. Anyway, you can also.
I mean, it makes you think through your deployment more about. I mean, gun lines you just drop in a corner anyway, so there's not a lot of thinking. It's really about the terrain, line of sight, because you often want the first shot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But other armies, quite often you're reacting to what your opponent's doing. So here you have to kind of think. On one hand, you want to react to a degree, but you also need to think about the overall alignment of your army, and when you start pulling out maybe main battle line units, if you weren't in the mood to, if somebody wanted to go second anyway, you didn't care about that, and you were trying to position certain pieces, it becomes more difficult.
Correct.
Because you may not be able to position it as well, because it still has to be in the right, on the left or right of maybe your general, and that can cause,
Yep.
just different thoughts. So I think it's a different thinking process.
Right. Now, these units don't have to be facing the edge of the board. They
Correct.
can be facing
Yeah.
towards the center.
You face wherever you want.
So it's not like the true marching column where you're facing in one direction.
Yeah, it's kind of, Age of Enlightenment, you march on and then everybody turns
Yes.
turns 90 degrees. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Now, what would be interesting is if would be even more interesting is if you had to write down, I think that was an old Games Workshop scenario too, where you had to write down your marching order, and then you both reveal those marching orders at the same time, and then you start placing your own units in this formation. Before you know what your opponent did, you have your marching order, he has his. I start placing mine 1, 2, 3, 4. He starts placing his 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think that would
kind of the blind.
I think that would make this interesting. This is not interesting to me.
Right.
I think, doing the blind setup would.
The blind setup would make this much better to me.
I think that would make it much more interesting than what I'm seeing here.
It also says instead of deploying a unit, a player may choose to make all undeployed units that are not scouting or ambushing delayed. Delayed units follow the rules for ambushing units, except they must be placed touching the long table edge in their owner's deployment zone.
Yeah.
So in other words, if this player he's got 6 more units, it's like, I'm not going to drop them. I'm going to deploy them as delayed. So now, from what I'm reading, they stay off until turn 2, and you start rolling to get them on.
They're ambushing, so I don't know why you'd ever want to do that.
I don't either.
Now, I'm assuming this does not apply to regular ambushing units.
No, it says right here it does not scouting.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking when I first read this that delayed was going to come on automatically on turn 1.
Yeah, that's above.
But it does not say that.
No. It specifically defines it as...
Right.
It counts as ambushing, but it comes on your table edge.
Yeah, if you have to roll it in, that can be a problem.
Yeah.
I don't see why you would do it.
Unless you want units for points denial.
You want to keep them off?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you can't... It's kind of tough because you're giving the opponent 2 turns to close in on you when those units are showing up.
Yeah, but then if he's closing in on one flank, you bring him on the other flank.
Right, you just push him down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible.
That's the only thing I could think of. I'm not saying it's a smart thing to do, but...
Right.
Again,
the point you made earlier would be very good to get some designer notes and what they're thinking.
what they're thinking there. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that last one.
Before picking deployment zones in terms of secondary objectives, same thing before. If you don't agree to one and you're not told by a tournament, just roll one off.
So it's the same. They've added 2 new categories of secondary objectives and tweaked some of the language on some of the ones that we had.
Okay.
Hold your ground. Place a marker to show the center of the board if needed. Secure and hold the center.
Now
the center. It's written by somebody British. Centre.
Centre.
Yeah.
The only objection I have at all to this, and this is carried from the old book, their old book as well, the version whatever we are on 1.3, all of them.
Yes.
Is
the format.
This piece is here. If you're looking through your rule book and you're at page 7 or whatever to see this deployment, this is here.
Right.
You flip all the way to the back of the book to see,
or wherever they put this.
Yes, to see what hold your ground actually means for the end of the game.
Yeah, I think this needs to be re-edited.
I don't like this being separated from.
They should be together, and it should be what it is, and then what the scoring is right below it. So you can make it. Once again, players that don't have these memorized, that are not flipping through the rule book.
Right. They don't have to do because it's a place of marker show the center of the board if needed. Okay, what does that do for me?
Right, exactly.
What does that mean?
And if you're people a lot of people are, of course, are, they do things 1 after 1, 2, 3. So they're sequential, and you do this, and then you find, oh, I should have done it differently.
Right.
Whatever. It'd be much better from a general editing. Nothing about the rule, just
Correct. The rules are fine.
from our perspective. It would be much better if the two were together.
Yeah, don't go looking. Don't have to go digging for
Yeah, so you don't have to go digging. Exactly.
Breakthrough stayed exactly the same.
Yeah, to keep track of your deployments. Once again, and these first don't even mean anything because the
Yes, exactly.
the effect is not anywhere close. So
I mean, if you're a new player,
keep track of my deployment zones. Okay.
okay, fine,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that brings us to gold diggers.
Yeah.
Gather precious loot. You place 3 markers. You take the dividing line. You place a marker in the very center of that. You place 2 more markers 24 inches away, or whatever, half the distance away to the edge of the board. And there's 3 more. So there's 3 markers on the board. At the start of your player turn, any scoring units may pick up the markers that are inside it. I'm assuming this means that they're over, that they're
Yeah,
on,
it really should
under
be
it or something.
pick up markers that are under
They're
it,
touching
not
it
inside
or
it.
under it or inside it is
Yeah,
weird.
they should change
But
that
that's
wording.
fine. I'm sure this was kind of pushed out
Yes.
a little bit faster, but then I think it was. Don't think it was quite ready.
No.
The unit is now carrying and this is the other thing.
Throughout.
They have to fix this because this is
the marker's marker.
yes. The other 2 markers. It's
more like maker's mark.
And then this
I'm
one's
going to
a
get
marker's
drunk while I'm playing this
marker.
game. Yeah.
The marker's marker has to go.
Yes.
The unit that is now carrying the tokens, whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
other than marker's marker,
Do not call the marker's marker.
will be
Yes.
marker's marker. I have no idea what that was supposed to do. Hopefully that's a placeholder for something.
Yes.
Anyway, marker's marker is at least
If not, we will be repeating it repeatedly.
markers.
Yes.
So basically, what they're saying is, if you pick up the token, unless you have 3 full ranks,
Not 3 additional ranks, but 3 full ranks.
3 full ranks, you can no longer. Which is basically telling you in old rule terms, it's telling you,
yes,
unless you have 3 ranks, you can no longer march.
Right.
You can only set to your regular
your
move
basic
rate.
base move, right?
And that's, to me, my mind means they wanted to stop something from getting to it fast and then just zipping away and hiding in a corner with it.
Yeah, although it's still kind of hard since it's a scoring unit that has to do it.
Yeah, but those.
And you basically, well, I guess what's unclear here, okay, may pick up markers that are inside it. So can you do this in the middle of your move?
At the start of your turn.
Your turns, you may
pick them up.
Any of your.
So you have to have the previous.
So you got to
turn
sit there
on
anyway. So you got to go forward, be within charge range, survive that, and then your next move, assuming that you survived it and you're not in close combat, you can try to
pick up the marker
walk
and move
away if you wish to.
If you pick up the marker's marker.
Yeah. So anybody that doesn't have a lot of ranks, probably, unless they're uber high initiative, high strength guys, isn't going to fare very well.
No, I see
early in the game.
Early in the game, I don't think. See this.
Yeah.
This is, to me, that's where this adds a little bit of a tactical thing to it. Is you got to know when it's.
Well, it comes down. You actually don't want to pick these up in a lot of cases.
Or
you want your opponent to, so you can knock them down.
Right.
And
well, there's also the possibility of moving up, grabbing one, and then chaffing the unit that could chase you.
Yeah.
That could chase you off of it and
there
then moving away.
That's true.
So I think this adds a little bit of tactical. Thing there.
It's nice for Death Stars.
Well, the Death Star is going to pick one up and can't do anything.
Well, you can go after a couple of them.
Yeah, because
just work its way because you can hold as many as you want.
Apparently, hold as many as you want. You really, and if you've got a Death Star, you really only need to hold 2.
Yeah.
Right, because you can't get them away from you.
Exactly.
Marcus Bard carry the basically if your unit is destroyed, flees, or no longer has any scoring models in it, basically if you're reduced to characters, I'm assuming,
right.
Then your opponent gets to place your marker anywhere within 3 inches of where that unit was.
Right. And it cannot be placed within 1 inch of impassable terrain.
So that helps him a little bit to.
But it can be placed inside a unit, so.
Which is, if you basically, I think this means
Basically,
if you basically break them in combat,
right, you can steal
you
it.
can grab it.
Well, you don't have to necessarily break them in combat, right? You could shoot them down if you got a guy close enough. You could take it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
If you shoot them from within 3 inches, you can take it from him. Or if you
somebody
shoot them
within
at somebody
3
else
inches,
within 3 inches,
or magic missile them or whatever.
just
So
bounce it into the other unit.
exactly.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, this is a different.
It's very different.
It's very different, and I'm gonna like the marker scenario. I'm gonna change it from the gold diggers to the marker.
There you go. I worry about these kinds of things in games of ranks and flanks. So,
right,
we have things that you're moving around, and anything that can potentially slow your units down.
Mm-hmm.
Slow as far as your marching ability.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, you don't want a unit of
cavalry. You don't want cavalry getting these things.
A cav unit that's moving like the Equitane guys running up to it,
yeah,
grabbing one and then running off 16 inches a turn, hiding in corners.
Well, they might be able to because they have easy ranks.
Equitane might be able to pull that
Yeah,
off, but
other guys
probably no one else.
Other guys will have to have their 15-unit cavalry units.
Yes, unless something, of course, changes with full ranks in Equitane.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
King of the Hill. Defend and desecrate the holy ground. Directly after determining deployment zones, starting
this is not defend and defecate on the holy ground.
It's kind of the same.
Yeah. It's all about the orifice limitations.
Starting with the player that picked deployment zones, both players choose a terrain feature that isn't impassable terrain.
Right.
See, again, this is another one of these things where you read this as a newer player and you say, okay, I've got to pick a piece of terrain that isn't impassable. Okay.
Yep.
I'll pick that. And then it's like, oh, that means that? Oh, shouldn't have picked that.
Yeah.
Like I said, it needs to tell you here what this means later on.
And it's interesting because there's no limitations on it. It can be anywhere on the table.
Anywhere on the table, apparently. Wonder if you can do that blind as well. You can end up picking the same one. Anyway.
Actually, both players choose a terrain feature that isn't impassable. Both players choose a terrain feature that isn't impassable.
Oh, you could intentionally pick the same one. You could intentionally
pick the same one.
Correct, unless maybe that wasn't their intention there.
That's, yeah. The way I'm reading it, they can pick the same one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's their intention or not, but...
the way it's written, you can pick the same one. Correct.
Yeah. It's interesting because you can go defensive. So you got a gun line, you got a little hill in the corner.
Right.
That's a terrain, so they have to come kill you to win.
Right.
Which would really suck if you're playing against a gun line. Or if you've got an ambushing army, like beast herds, you pick something that's
way off to the flank.
Way off to the flank, even in your
control it.
In your in your opponent's side. Now, of course,
well,
your opponent's going to know about it,
right.
So they'll be able to defend
Actually,
it to a certain point.
the only one this really helps is that.
Yeah, I think it helps
the gun line.
It helps the gun line. Well, I think it can even still with the ambushers because it could cause you to hold. You may have an army that needs to be aggressive, and you can't afford to be too aggressive.
Right.
Like maybe you're Equitane and you run up against beast herds. Well, now I've got this cavalry army. I have to hold people back here by this woods, or I'm giving up 3+3-.
Right. That's
instead of maneuvering around and using my advantage of maneuver. So
yeah.
Good
point. Next we have capture the flags, which is a scenario that's been there before.
Yes.
The difference they changed in this is that if you have less than 3 scoring units in your army, your opponent gives enough of your units scoring so that you do have 3 scoring units.
Right.
So basically, it used to be that if you had less than 3 scoring units, you were immediately giving an advantage to your opponent.
Right. So it was kind of a semi-anti
Death
Star.
Right.
So now, if you have a Death Star, you don't want to have 2 tiny little units with your Death Star.
Right. Done after moving vanguards, but before the.
You just want to have 2 Death Stars.
So yeah, that's a little bit different than it used to be. It's not a huge change, but it is different.
It's different.
Right?
Well, yeah, hmm.
Yeah, I really don't see this changing much.
I don't think it's going to change much now.
Because
unless
you
I'm
used
missing
to get the
something.
unit free. Now you
Right.
just pick the unit. You do have to go after the unit,
Right, you got to zap it with magic
or
or
kill it or whatever, but
missiles or
which is more than
close
you had to
combat.
do before to get
Right.
it for free.
So
But you're going to pick a unit that's easy to do.
right.
So it's almost the same thing.
Well, then the other thing, once again, if it's something that's like that, you as the player say, "Oh, they've picked this cheap unit. It's easier to kill. I'm going to run it behind the hill,
Right.
so they can't get to it."
Yeah, I like this better the way it was before. Whereas if you didn't bring 3 scoring units, you're immediately giving up something.
Yeah,
You're giving an advantage to your opponent by not having 3 scoring units.
yeah, I preferred that.
Anyway, and then secure targets, the last one, where directly after deploying deployment zones, place 1 battle. Oh, this is the same as it was before.
Yeah,
This one hasn't changed either.
No, just
We've
how
got a
that-
couple wording changes.
it's just the wording changes on the third.
Right. You still place the marker. Yep. All right. The rule
Here we
changes
go.
to deployment phase. This is the one you were talking about earlier.
Yes, this one I do not like at all.
I don't like this one at all. All war machines count as a single unit during the deployment phase and must be deployed at the same time. That is no longer the case. All war
so you can
machines are
play-
separate. Yeah.
So now
To me, this is a bonus. This is a
this is a
big
bonus to
plus
gun
for
lines.
a gun line
This is a
or
big plus.
war machine gun line army.
Yeah, now I can hold that last cannon without giving up anything
Correct.
till the very end. And since war machines tend to be, I mean, they're cheaper than battle line units,
Mm-hmm.
more expensive than chaff, but well, depending on the war machine. But the you can really all of a sudden, oh, I've got 3 or 4 war machines. It really helps me spread out my setup. If I'm in a position that I'm okay to give up the first turn shooting, and it's really more important for me to line up that killer shot on.
Yeah. Again, I would be very curious to hear
No.
why they thought that splitting up war machine deployments was important.
Yeah,
Moved
I would. I would too, because I think it just makes them. Now,
I mean, I'm sure. See, the thing is, there could be some completely logical reason that makes 100% sense
could be.
that I'm just not thinking of.
well,
why they
we
would have
also
done
don't know what they're going to do with the new rules about line of sight and such things.
it. Oh, good point.
Yeah. So when we see version 2, a lot of these things are based on assumptions on version 1.3.
That's true.
They could completely
We're reading these and reading 1.3
Exactly.
rules into them. So,
right, but we're going to be playing these with 1.3 initially. So
if we start using them now, yes.
yeah, if we start using them now, which is what they want people to do. But with 1.3, yeah, I'm not a fan at all.
Deploy units, deploy remaining units. The other player must now deploy the rest of their
Yeah.
army. Enemies are deployed in the step. Remember the values. Undeployed unit value in the sequence of seeds.
It's the same. They just took the war machine reference out.
Right. Okay. And now the scoring secondary objectives. Again,
Yes.
the scoring secondary objectives, as we said before.
They need to
needs go
combine
the
with
others.
the actual secondary objective, so it makes sense.
So the hold your ground changes is that at the end of each game turn after the first, so starting on the end of turn 2,
Right.
the player with the most scoring units within 6 inches of the center point of the board gain a counter. At the end of the game, the player with the most counters wins this secondary objective. Now this, to me, looks like a bonus for a Death Star in this scenario. Because it used to be the Death Star rolls up to center of the board and sits there. The other player, the MSU player, sits back and on the last turn swoops in
And grabs
gets 3 or 4 units in there and outnumbers him.
Now they've got to send units forward and potentially
Get them destroyed
bleed.
piecemeal.
Yes, bleed.
Bleed
exactly,
units,
bleed
yes.
units to try to get
To
this.
challenge it or whatever every
yeah.
turn
Yeah.
to stop him from doing it. Yeah, that's just the one thing I see on this.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
And it's, it also, the strong unit, the strong army,
The fighty army.
the fighty army,
The
yes,
guy with high initiative, high.
moves forward within 6 and just kind of dares you to come within
Correct.
6 and he'll destroy
It's
you.
like, yeah, you want to get here? I've got my, Warriors of Dark God just waiting for you to bring up your
Yes.
your peasants or whoever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I have to play it a couple times. I'm not a big fan at first glance of that one.
Yeah, same.
The breakthrough, the player with the most scoring units up to a maximum of 3 within its opponent's deployment zone at the end of the game wins this secondary. I actually kind of like this change. It used to be it's the most scoring units in your opponent's deployment zone. Now it's a maximum of 3. Anyway, it's just a small change. Knocks down MSU a little bit, I think.
It knocks down MSU.
But I do like this change.
I think a number of these are knocking down MSU a little bit.
The Gold Diggers, at the end of the game, the player with the most units.
MSU for certain armies.
Oh, this is the marker scenario.
Yes.
At the end of the game, the player with the most units carrying markers. Oh, it's only
Not only markers
now,
here, yeah.
wins the secondary objective.
Yes.
Okay. And that's fine.
It's fine for what it is.
I actually want to play this a couple times and see how it goes. The Gold Diggers.
I think it'd be interesting to me as a fun scenario. I don't like it in a
competitive.
Not that I play tournaments, but I don't like it as a scenario for tournaments.
All right. The King of the Hill. If a single player has its chosen terrain feature without any enemy troops within it, enemy units within it, this player wins the secondary objective. Ignore models with light troops. Okay. So basically that hill I picked.
So it's units within it. So
yeah, what's that do for oh, you're not allowed to pick impassable.
I can't pick hills either because it's within it.
I think that's going to include on.
Yeah.
On or in.
Yes, yeah. They need to tighten. I'm just making a joke. They need to tighten up that language. Yes.
Good point.
Yeah. Can't get inside the hill. Unless you got a tunnel.
Yeah. A single player that has chosen this has its chosen terrain feature without. Okay.
It's just badly written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just defending a piece of terrain.
Basically, yes. If you have it and there's no enemy units in it, you get the some objectives. So you have to take yours, and you have to take yours and keep them from taking theirs.
You have to take his and protect your own.
Yeah.
Unless I've got a big scary. I keep harping on the Death Stars. Unless I have a big scary Death Star that when you pick your little forest, I'm going to pick your forest as well, and so I'm just going to march over there and push you out of your little forest, and it's mine because it's both of ours.
Exactly.
And then by taking it, I win.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to try this. This is another one I haven't played. Want to play it? I haven't played any of these. Of course, they are new ones, but I just want to. This one could be interesting.
I think it is interesting. I'm a little worried about beast herds.
Beast herds being able to swarm on something.
Yeah, with their ambushing.
Yeah. Capture the flag. Player that has the lowest number of its scoring units dead at the end of the game wins the secondary objective. Okay. Again.
Actually, I think this rule would be okay. The King of the Hill if ambushing units couldn't take the terrain feature.
Basically it was ignore models with light troops or ambushing.
Yeah.
Could be. Secure target stays these. Capture the flags pretty much stayed the same, just the wording changed.
Yeah, and then it changed the wording too. Is scoring units dead? I mean, they're destroyed, they're eliminated. Dead's just not a good word.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I'm
dead.
Yes, because I've got undead, so I'm dead. I play vampire counts.
Yeah, there you go. Does vampire counts automatically win?
Yeah.
Because all my units are dead?
Has the lowest.
The lowest number of
you lose automatically if you have vampire counts
or
a Dying Dynasty.
I'll have to use that on the next time I play Chris.
There you go.
The end of the game, the player controlling the most markers within the secondary. Okay, and this old secure target. It's still there.
Yes. There's no marker though.
No, I missed that in the Gold Diggers one.
Yes.
And that's it. I'm intrigued by a couple of these. I don't, like I said, they're looking for comments. So play some of them, test them out, offer some suggestions. If you think I like a lot, it adds a little bit more variety than what there was before. There's a couple, I don't know why they did a couple things. I don't know what the thinking was behind some of them.
They do have to decide also if they're going to write these rules in British English or in American English.
Just pick a version and stick to it.
Yeah, it's like, are we Centra? Are we Armor?
Armor. I think we're going with the English.
We are here.
We are here.
In this particular section,
correct.
We are, yes.
I mean, they've always used the armor.
Yeah.
AMOUR.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, this kind of intrigues me a little bit. I think I may play this a couple times as a house rule where you actually have to write your marching order.
I think it would be better with writing your marching order, yes.
Then you place it down, you're like, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Again, maybe not in a competitive environment. Who knows? But
yeah, as I said, I'd rather have a staggered deployment, as I mentioned.
Yep.
As a style.
But anyway.
Yeah, it looks like a number of these, at least once again on first glance. I was wrong the first rule book because I got it backwards, but it looks like it's a little anti-MSU. I mean, we'll see. It'd be good to see what they were trying to do with these scenarios, as we said. Trying to tone down on that, which is kind of too bad because, well, it is kind of funny because right now with the game, the best MSUs, at least in my opinion, are armies that historically weren't MSUs.
Weren't MSU armies?
Yeah, and the armies that were historically MSU armies struggle a little bit at it. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's a whole nother conversation. But if they're trying to balance that, I think those were problems with the army design, not so much the scenarios. And how they related to scenarios. But that's only one thing that I'm guessing they're trying to cut that back on all those Tomb King MSU armies and Ogre MSU armies. I'm sorry, not Tomb King, Undying Dynasties. Apologies.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are these Tomb Kings you speak of?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it would be really interesting for them to do a quick write-up on what they were thinking on.
Yeah.
I think that would help me a lot.
It would.
I think it'd help everybody as far as even in the play testing, as far as understanding what you're trying to do. So at least you know what you, because really when you're doing play testing, you want players who are going to break your assumptions, break your design.
Correct.
Without knowing what it is, it's hard. It's harder. It's a happenstance that these things happen.
Stumble on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're better off. You use a scientific method. The whole point is you try to disprove it.
Right.
And I think that would help them a lot with a lot of their stuff.
Here's what we were trying to accomplish with this. You play test it and tell us if we accomplish that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be some jerks out there. They're going to say, "Oh, you're idiots" or whatever. But don't pay any attention to those people. Just, this is what we're trying to do. This is our assumptions. Test it. What have you determined, and what are your examples that support that conclusion? I think that would help them a little bit as far as what they're trying to get to. But in any case, some of the changes, I really like this Dawn Assault one, I have to admit.
Oh, squeezing people into the center of the board?
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Again, I think this could be a slightly against MSU as you don't have the range to spread out that you use.
Yeah, but you tend to have light troops and scouts.
This hurts ogres because that's 2 sections of 12 inches of the boards their BSB doesn't reach on turn one.
There you go, yeah.
Because they can't go in those corners.
Well, since their BSB goes on the entire table, what does it matter?
Well, doesn't matter. It means he's getting shorted because he can't put anybody in here to take advantage of that.
So they can drop the points on that. It doesn't have to be as expensive as an upgrade.
It should be cheaper because it doesn't help them as much in one scenario.
They're losing 12 inches.
I agree. Yeah. I don't know how much that costs, but cut it in half.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But I really like this. The first scenario is, I always like the front line. It's straightforward.
Yep.
It's easy to play. I really like the second one as a tournament scenario.
Okay.
It's just a variation of that, but that little bit makes a difference. The counter thrust, I'm not quite getting.
Yeah. 8, 12. So you end up being 20 inches apart.
Yes.
Which is the same as this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not real sure what the purpose of this one was.
Yeah, I mean,
If they kept, like you said, if they bumped this back down to 6,
right,
and
20.
kept this at 20, then it would because you'd make a bigger dent in your
Right,
opponent.
you'd see some interesting deployment lines. That I think would be interesting, but this, not so sure.
But anyway, that may cause other problems that we're not thinking of, though. So,
Yeah,
and maybe they did and said,
Mhm.
"No, that doesn't work that way,"
yeah,
or it doesn't.
be
work
good to
because of
understand.
that.
So yeah, that one, whatever. In Circle, I think it's a neat scenario. I think it's fine for tournament. I just think it'd be better if they had fixed one of those areas was fixed. It would make it easier for people to memorize.
Yeah.
Instead of having the quarter, half
Yeah,
quarter.
like I said, this is just a kind of a little bit hard to understand
Yeah.
for beginners.
Yeah.
It's the only.
Well, I see people that play a lot and they're constantly looking at it again. What is this again? What is that again? So
Right.
I can understand that. Refuse flank. It's an
I've
old
always liked refuse
snowflake. I
flag.
said I'm not a huge fan of it
Right.
for the reasons I mentioned, but nothing wrong with it. This one,
I'm kind of meh on this one, but we'll see.
I think you could have fun with it, especially if you do the hidden movement
Right.
as a fun game. I don't know if I'd want to see that in the.
I'd want to play this a few times with
In
a
the
couple
tournaments.
club mates and see how this plays out.
Yeah.
Because this one is the most radical different one, I think, than any of them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because it's forcing you to deploy in a certain manner.
Right.
None of the other ones do that.
Exactly.
So this one, anyway, this is the one I think is going to require more practice.
Yeah, and I think you can have a lot of fun with it. I just I don't know about the tournament. One is just because it slows down setup because
Right.
you have to go through the whole exercise of putting one down at a time, and a lot of times now people just they dump their army pretty soon in the in the setup.
Yep.
If they don't do it on turn 1, they do it probably by turn 3 or 4, unless they're doing that perfect lineup. Instead of that, I kind of would like to see one that was similar to the encircle, except it's a refuse flank. So one side is far back, the other side, half the table's back,
Table up,
and half the bag
back,
is forward. I think
Right.
that would be much more
which
interesting.
is kind of like this, but
Yes,
not in
but
a
straighter.
diagonal.
Yeah,
Right.
which would give you more
With
depth
lines
to your
to give you some
position.
depth.
At least a little bit more depth to your position.
Good. Yep.
So that would be kind of interesting. And as we mentioned, then the secondary objectives, we agree that they need to put the scoring
part
with
of it.
the thing, so it just flows a little bit better. Have some concerns. Once again, I think the gold diggers. I think it's a fun thing. I'd be a little worried I guess you have to play it more, but I'm just a little worried in the tournament.
We'll play it sometime. See.
Yeah, said it.
The same thing with the King of the Hill. I think they both. I just need to play them both to see what
I think
how they work out.
I think they need to clarify. Actually, I needed to fix it. If both players can pick the same terrain feature.
Okay.
Because I would be worried about that, and then all of a sudden I've got this huge thing that I can't fight. Just tramples
Just
across the
rolling
board
down on you.
and just takes it. And it's like, okay, I don't care about rears or flanks or whatever. You can't kill. You can't kill me. You can't get the objective.
Right. And the rest of them stayed kind of the same.
Capture the flags.
The other two stayed the same, pretty much.
Well, the thing is about you pick up.
Except you no longer give away a
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
I did like it better. I do. Looking at the two versions, this and the old one, I do like the old one better.
I
where
much
you gave
prefer
up
the old one because, like I said, now you can just say, "Oh, you picked that cheap thought you could kill it. He's going to run behind the hill.
Right.
Good luck finding him."
Yeah. I mean, it is after deployment, so you can pick a non-mobile unit or whatever. I mean, hell, Beastman could pick your war machine.
Yes.
And then come up behind it and just destroy it.
Yeah.
Which,
if you have those types of things, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, which would pretty much almost equal the old one, where it's you're kind of giving a piece away.
Yeah.
But I just think you should, if you don't have the 3 scoring units, you should be giving something away.
Yeah, because
But anyway,
I mean,
my opinion.
I don't like Death Stars. I don't like how the Horde rule currently works, especially with them. So I don't like anything that.
You just don't like anything.
Exactly, there is that. Anything that might reinforce that's give you an advantage for that style.
Old and grumpy, and you don't like anything.
Absolutely. I don't like you.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Exactly. The War Machine.
I don't like the War Machine rule.
That's the one thing that really bothers me, I have to say. This stuff doesn't bother me. These are all just our opinions for what the hell they're worth.
There may be a valid reason for this that I just don't know. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
My initial reaction to this is I don't like that.
Yeah, that one's the one that really gets me a little concerned.
But again, without
context, it's hard for us.
we don't know what we're talking about.
And that's true of most of the things, you know.
Because
right now,
know what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But with version 2, we don't know what's coming and what's going to be different. So,
right.
We know a lot's going to be different in line of sight, and I think combat is what we know, I guess, with the new table and the how armor and penetration,
and strength and armor penetration are going, and weapon skill.
Yeah, what's going on with all that kind of stuff and magic.
Modifiers,
so we don't know what impact these are going to have on. And these things here are all for version 2, so they're going to be, affected by those particular rules.
Yep, and that's the other thing. They're going to have to take whatever feedback they get from this and
and then
keep in mind in the back
put it
of
through
their
the version
heads,
2 filter.
Yeah, what people are reporting that is going to be not a problem come version 2.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. Well, I think we've kind of beat this.
This one to death exactly
several times.
Absolutely.
So that's going to do it.
But right? I only have one more thing to say.
Okay, fine.
Marker's mark.
Marker's marker.
Yeah.
Marker's marker.
Marker's marker.
Marker's marker.
Marker's marker.
Keep this in the game. Marker's. You know what? It's growing on me.
Exactly.
This has got to stay in
Marker's marker. I'm just gonna walk down the street just saying Marker's marker.
Marker's marker. Marker's marker.
Exactly.
We should do a video on that.
That's for sure.
Marker's marker.
I think we can do a video and just say Marker's marker the entire video for like 20 minutes.
20 minutes? That's short for us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
We're getting out of here. This is getting ridiculous.
It is.
How did we turn a stupid little 4-page review into a 50-minute rant?
It's what we do because we're old and grumpy.
It's just dumb. All right. This is it. Good night.
Until the next time.
Bye.